Welcome to Chasing Curiosity TV. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more updates. The South China Sea has become a stage for rising tensions, with China steadily expanding its influence. Beijing uses gray zone tactics, aggressive moves that stop short of open conflict, to pressure its neighbors. Chinese Coast Guard and maritime militia vessels intimidate other nations' ships, projecting power without firing a shot. Artificial islands have been transformed into military outposts, complete with runways and missile systems, extending China's reach. This buildup signals Beijing's ambition to dominate the region and challenge the US and its allies. The South China Sea is vital. Over a third of global shipping passes through these waters. Constant friction raises the risk of a minor incident escalating into a major crisis. Countries like Vietnam, Malaysia, and Brunei face a tough choice: confront a powerful neighbor or lose their rights. China's claims, marked by the 9-dash line, overlap with other nations' exclusive economic zones. The region is rich in fish, oil, and gas, resources crucial for China's economic security. Controlling the South China Sea would give China a strategic buffer and a launchpad for power projection. The balance of power that kept peace for decades is now under serious strain. Nationalism, economic needs, and strategic calculation drive China's assertive posture. The world watches as the regional order is fundamentally challenged. In response, the United States, Japan, and the Philippines have formed a united front. Their recent joint naval exercises in contested waters were a clear message to Beijing. Coercion will be met with solidarity. Warships from all three nations sailed together, demonstrating both unity and military capability. These drills go beyond tactics, they're about deterrence. By operating together, the Allies raise the cost of any Chinese aggression. This trilateral partnership marks a shift from traditional bilateral alliances to a networked security architecture. Japan is taking a more proactive security role, while the Philippines has renewed its alliance with the US. The alliance strengthens the free and open Indo-Pacific strategy. China's divide-and-conquer approach is countered by this collective stance. An attack on one is now a concern for all, giving smaller nations confidence to defend their rights. The partnership transforms individual disputes into a collective defense of the rules-based order. This unity makes it harder for Beijing to isolate and pressure its neighbors. The trilateral drills are a powerful symbol of shared resolve. The message: the international community is watching and prepared to act. The stakes are high, and the alliance is determined to uphold stability. The region's future may depend on this growing solidarity. Scarborough Shoal is a flashpoint in the South China Sea dispute. Located within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, it was once a vital fishing ground for Filipinos. In 2012, China seized control, maintaining a constant presence ever since. China's recent declaration of the shoal as a maritime reserve is seen as a move to legitimize its control. This effectively bars Filipino fishermen from their traditional waters under the guise of environmental protection. The shoal's strategic value is immense. If militarized, it would complete a triangle of Chinese bases, giving Beijing control over the sea. For the US and its allies, a Chinese base here is a red line. The standoff at Scarborough Shoal symbolizes China's willingness to use power over law. It highlights the vulnerability of smaller nations facing a superpower. The principles at stake are enormous. Law versus force. The fate of this small reef could reshape the Indo-Pacific's future. Scarborough is more than rocks. It's a test of the international order. The world is watching what happens next. The South China Sea dispute is as much about law as it is about territory. At its core is the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, which defines exclusive economic zones. Scarborough Shoal lies within the Philippines' EEZ, as recognized by UNCLOS. In 2016, an international tribunal ruled in favor of the Philippines, rejecting China's 9-dash line claims. The court found China had violated the Philippines' rights and that many features were not entitled to their own EEZs. China dismissed the ruling, continuing its activities as if it never happened. This defiance undermines the rules-based order and sets a dangerous precedent. The US, Japan, and the Philippines now conduct freedom of navigation operations to challenge China's claims. These operations enforce the tribunal's ruling through action, not just words. The law's power depends on nations respecting it. China's refusal weakens the system. The struggle is now between international law and national ambition. The world's response will shape the future of global maritime order. The South China Sea is a test case for the value of international law. For Filipino fishermen, the South China Sea dispute is a daily struggle. Scarborough Shoal was once their lifeline, rich in fish and tradition. Since China's takeover in 2012, they've been chased away by Chinese Coast Guard vessels. Stories of water cannons, intimidation, and confiscated catches are common. Forced to fish in less productive waters, many have seen their incomes collapse. Debt and despair now haunt once thriving communities. China's declaration of a marine reserve feels like a cruel excuse to formalize their exclusion. Fishermen who fish sustainably for generations see large Chinese vessels causing more harm. Their voices are often lost in diplomatic debates, but their hardship is real. "That shoal is ours," says Roberto, a fisherman whose family has fished there for generations. Now they're treated as intruders in their own backyard. The human cost of the dispute is profound. Livelihoods and dignity are at stake. The South China Sea conflict is not just about territory, it's about survival. These stories remind us of the real impact of geopolitical power plays. The fate of these communities hangs in the balance. The South China Sea tensions are part of a larger geopolitical contest across the Indo-Pacific. At the center is the U.S., with defense treaties binding it to Japan, South Korea, and the Philippines. The U.S.-Philippines Mutual Defense Treaty now explicitly covers the South China Sea, raising the stakes for China. New multilateral partnerships are emerging, like the U.S.-Japan-Philippines Trilateral and the Quad. AUKUS adds another layer, sharing advanced military technology among allies. These alliances aim to balance China's growing power and uphold a free regional order. China sees these moves as containment and responds by strengthening its own military and partnerships. The result: competing security blocs and a risk of polarization. Every move is met with a countermove, making the region more volatile. The South China Sea is now a critical square on this crowded chessboard. The risk of miscalculation is ever present. The stakes are global, not just regional. The game is more dangerous than ever. To understand China's stance, we must see it through Beijing's eyes. China claims the South China Sea based on the 9-dash line, citing centuries-old maps and records. Beijing sees its actions as defensive, protecting what it views as historic territory. The 2016 tribunal ruling is dismissed as biased and illegitimate. China frames its military buildup as a response to U.S. presence and alliances. Artificial islands are described as defensive and beneficial for all. This narrative, promoted at home, fuels nationalism and support for assertive policies. Understanding this perspective explains China's unyielding position. It's a deeply held belief driving its actions regardless of international condemnation. The South China Sea is an economic lifeline. 1/3 of global maritime trade passes through it. Any disruption would have worldwide consequences, breaking supply chains and raising costs. The region holds vast oil and gas reserves, making control a matter of national security for many. Competition for these resources intensifies territorial disputes. The sea is also a crucial fishing ground, but stocks are dwindling due to overfishing and environmental damage. Resource scarcity fuels further conflict and threatens coastal livelihoods. Economic stability in the Indo-Pacific depends on peace in these waters. Tensions create uncertainty, deterring investment and raising shipping costs. Naval drills highlight both the fragility and importance of stability. Maintaining peace here is a global economic imperative. The South China Sea's future is one of persistent tension and careful maneuvering. China is unlikely to back down, seeing control as vital to its national goals. The U.S. and its allies are equally committed to upholding international law and freedom of navigation. Expect more joint military exercises and stronger alliances as counterweights to China. Open communication channels are essential to prevent miscalculation and conflict. Southeast Asian nations must balance defending their rights with maintaining economic ties to China. ASEAN's role is important but limited by internal divisions. The region faces a long-term test of resolve and commitment to shared rules. Naval drills are statements of intent, not solutions. The challenge is to compete without tipping into war. The journey ahead demands steady leadership and unwavering commitment to the rule of law.